government. So they were blowing the whistle on the fact that Rand were getting together with the Pentagon to try and foment this new war to distract people from the economic crisis. What came out of Bilderberg was the fact that they want this massive war in the Middle East, which includes everybody apart from Israel. I mean, but the scope of what this can be obviously hinges on China's reaction, because for the first time ever at Bilderberg, we had 2 Chinese officials in attendance. So the debate centers around whether China is going to become this new empire that will compete with the globalists, with the New World Order, or whether it will be absorbed into the New World Order club. And specifically in the Middle East, China are furious that the United States is involved in this Libya intervention, because over the past 5-10 years, China has basically set about colonizing Africa financially and for its resources. And the Africans have been willing to go along with it because China doesn't have the history of exploiting the country for its own benefit as the West does, as America does, as the British Empire does, the French Empire, the NATO powers. So in addition to this, we've got obviously China set to become the largest economy in the world in 2016. So obviously the globalists, the Bilderberg crowd, are trying to extend an olive branch to China by integrating them into the club. And it's obviously an effort to weaken the alliance with Pakistan. The Chinese and Pakistan economies are basically becoming vertically integrated. That alliance is now so strong as a result of Pakistan turning away from the United States after the Bin Laden facade. So we know that, you know, the drone strikes are intensifying against Pakistan. And the globalists don't want to have to deal with this wild card of China as they're trying to get rid of Pakistan and destroy Pakistan's sovereignty, basically. So it's about bringing China into the fold and ensuring that they don't make any unpredictable moves regarding Pakistan as this PNAC global takeover ensues.
It is, unfortunately, possibly a confrontation looming, as we've seen AFRICON moving in as a greater imperial force in Africa. Then we've seen tensions breaking down with Pakistan as China builds those bases. We had Dr. Hamid Gul on yesterday. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Infowars.com. Again, the phone number to call in, 1-800-259-9231. 1-800-259.
In the past...
We are back once again on the Alex Jones Show. Aaron Dykes sitting in while Alex is away. But what a day to be gone, of course. World War III really seems to be looming. The Euro crisis in full scope. And just on the heels of the Bilderberg meetings, where we've seen many of the reported leaked inside agenda already playing out, whether it be over the Cybersecurity Act, whether it be over greater war in Libya, whether it be trying to rebuff U.S. politicians who want to end some of those wars, or whether it be the Euro situation between Greece and the still sovereign countries like Switzerland. Paul Watson, we want to go down to a few calls and get their take, but real quick, what are we looking at? We were discussing China and the geostrategic situation.
Yeah, in conclusion, they're basically trying to hand out an olive branch to China because they're scared stiff of how the Chinese will react when this big Middle East war kicks off. Obviously, they're already planning to go into Libya in October, as our sources told us. But it's when Pakistan becomes involved that they're decidedly unsure about how the Chinese will react. So that is the touch point when it's going to kick off big time, and that is the threat of World War III.
Paul, let's see what the callers have to add. I think we have on the line Hector from California. Are you there, Hector?
Yeah, I'm here, Aaron.
What's going on?
I just wanted to start off. Two points I wanted to make, but first off, it boggles my mind that there's so much news going on, and it's even in mainstream now, you know, everything that's going on in the world. And Americans, I mean, I talk to a lot of people every day, and I would say 99% of people still just live in blissful ignorance. And you can tell them fact after fact after fact and let them decide for themselves, and they still will not, they refuse to wake up. we're on the verge of, World War III. And everyone that I know, young people, old people, they care more about celebrity gossip and more about, what's going on MTV than they do about these real issues that are, pushing us to the brink of, a thermonuclear war. For example, just the state of not only the economy, but, the world economy. We are in a depression, like Alex Jones and everyone says we are in a depression. And one example I give people is in the 30s, there was bread lines, there was soup kitchens, and the only reason that we don't see those today is because of food stamps and because of EBT cards. Get rid of those, and it's the same as in the 30s. If in a lot of senses, it's worse, and it's gonna take a lot of really bad times for people to really wake up, and by then it might be too late. The second point I wanted to raise is for a long time, I woke up about 2 years ago, and for a long time I was just in complete denial about a lot of these things, and namely subliminal messaging. Since I woke up, I've started to see it more and more and more, and this was some new movies that came out. I had to sit down on a new X-Men movie, and there's actually a point in the movie where they specifically say that it's necessary to strip people of their rights in order to obtain security, which is a complete, assault on what Ben Franklin said. And it's just, it boggles my mind that people just continue to eat it up. And we are winning, we are waking more people up, but more of us need to wake up if we ever want to bring about real change and steal the power from, the elitists that are running the world,
Yeah, unfortunately, you really have a point, Hector. A lot of these movies are basically theater for the mind, for the general public, who, as you say, are completely out of the realm of real stuff going on. And further, I think there's kind of an animal psychology limit to our attention spans. I've seen it explain how a lion in a cage at a circus, they use a chair and a whip because that's more points than he can keep track of, so that he's not thinking about, quote, the man in the white pants. I think it's a lot the same with the war. They've got us focused, A, on celebrity issues, B, on getting food on the table or on fulfilling the obligations for food stamps, etc. And then who could keep track of 5 wars? Who can even name them all? Webster Tarpley and Alex Jones could barely name all the different conflicts going on as they still unfold. Paul Watson, what do you have to say about that?
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, that in a week where the Eurozone is on the verge of collapse, we've got all these new wars kicking off, the biggest story on Fox News and CNN is still, for the, 3rd week running, Wiener's Wiener. That just gives you an insight into how these networks control the paradigm. But, the caller was talking about 90-odd% of people he talks to are not awake. If you're not awake by now, at least tangentially to these issues, then really there's no hope, is there? But I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we come across regularly is the people that are aware but just don't do anything about it. The keyboard warriors, they just sit behind there cynically complaining about, protesting is not going to do anything, this is not going to do anything. Even as the Bilderberg agenda starts to fail, the things that they're calling for start to fail, so we're having an impact. These people still sit there just cynically whining that we can't do anything. So moreover than the people who just are completely unaware and distracted, I think it's the people who are aware but just choose to think that they have no influence or power whatsoever. That's our biggest problem going forward. So those are the people we need to target, the people who are already in the arena but are just sat up in the bleachers doing nothing about it.
Yeah, we can't make any difference. That's why they're trying to shut down our cameras and why the police at Bilderberg tried to shut down the protesters and take their passports and intimidate them. But that all changed, didn't it, Paul, when a member of the Swiss parliament wrote a letter telling police that they weren't allowed to do that anymore?
Well, yeah, in the first day they were really aggressive. They were seizing people's passports. As the conference went on, they pulled back further and further, and we were able to get more in the faces of Bilderberg members to the point where we were basically just chasing them around in their limos and so forth. But again, most of the people who read our website are not actively involved. We have to face up to that fact. So we have to target those people and try and get the message through that you can have an impact. It's already manifesting itself in the days after, with the opposition to the Libya war intensifying, as Bilderberg feared, and their whole Eurozone EU project collapsing around their feet. So the focus on what they're doing does have an effect. It does have an influence. We're not saying we're going to save the world overnight, but you at least have to have the belief that you can have an influence to have any impact on the situation at all. So it's just about, having self-confidence, not being a keyboard warrior who just cynically attacks other people, and actually just getting out there and doing something. And it's many hands make light work.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the protesters in Europe right now are making a difference on that point. Let's go now to Kevin in Ohio. Are you there, Kevin?
Hello. Amen to everything you're saying. I want to bring to attention, and I really hope that Alex and this broadcast can bring it to light. There's a country, a European country, that is trying to break the shackles of tyranny all the way back from early in the 20th century. It's a long-forgotten country. It's Belarus. In the last month, they've devalued their currency by over 50%. Lukashenko still runs with an iron fist, imprisoning all his opponents. And I would like to hear an outcry for these people to break this tyranny that's been just gobbling them up. World War II, World War I. And I would like this program to have an effect for them, somebody to shout out to them, because they don't hear from anyone. That country just continues to be run over. And Mr. Watts is right. We don't do anything. I'm a non-vet. And where are the Vietnam veterans against the war? We should all be down there with everyone, just protesting every day. No more wars, no more blood of our people for them, for the banks. No more. God bless you both.
Bless you also. We've seen quite a bit of protesting during the Bush years, and then suddenly it evaporated in the Obama years, as if the wars were suddenly attractive and desirable. But as far as Belarus, I know there's been what looks to be staged terror attacks over there. Things have been obviously very difficult in Eastern Europe. That doesn't mean I'm an expert on the situation. Paul Watson, what do you know about Belarus?
Well, you obviously had Lukashenko coming out and opposing the New World Order basically a few months ago. They're similarly impacted by the same economic crisis that Greece are currently labouring under. So again, it's just another victim of this globalist onslaught, and it's similar to other European countries like Switzerland, where there's a large number of the population that are aware of it. I mean, I was heartened when we were at Bilderberg just to see to the level at which the Swiss people were so informed and committed to the cause, because you don't see that in a lot of countries. So people need to know that there is an informed, active, determined young base that's out there that are willing to try and rescue their own country. And it's sweeping Europe, it's sweeping America, and we just need to be patient, because it's not going to happen overnight.
I'm with you there. Thank you for the call, Kevin. Let's go now to Aaron in Nevada.
Hey, man, how you doing? Well, I haven't always been the biggest fan of Aaron Dykes, to be frank, but I tell you, you really impressed me with your work there at Bilderberg. Very confident, very salient, and also Watson from United Kingdom there. I really like all the work that you do and everything. Really awesome. Here's the thing. I think, though, that we need to be less ambiguous about this term globalist, which I hear everybody using nowadays. I think it's a bit of a misnomer. I think we have to be more specific and name names so we can target our protests against those particular individuals, hound them, as opposed to this generic globalist term, which is, I think, ambiguous to a lot of people. On my radio show at GoNob.com, me and Bob Chapman had a little game show called Name the Globalist, just so we could start...
Hey, hang right there, Aaron. We're going to come back to you after the break, but we have the list in front of us, so I can read the names. They're in the CFR and the other groups. Back after this, Infowars.com.
To be the sad man
We're back again on the Alex Jones Show, Infowars.com. I'm Aaron Dykes sitting in while Alex is away. On the line with me, Paul Joseph Watson, coming up in just a few minutes. Alex Benesch of the Info Krieg, also a fellow witness to the 2011 Bilderberg meeting. And coming up later, Bob Chapman. But the caller was bringing up how we've maybe been a little too vague about the globalists. I don't think so. I think